Yikes. That was a bad one for the Colorado Rockies this afternoon as they fall to the Chicago Cubs in the series finale, unable to secure the sweep. And a little poetic for the Rockies today. I'll explain why. Walks were brutal, double-digit walks for the Rockies. Pitching staff today, both between the rotation, Cal Quantrill with the start today, and the bullpen. Not a whole lot cooking as the Rockies are unable to complete a series sweep of the Chicago Cubs. We'll break it all down for you on today's installment of your Locked On Rockies postcast. Let's get into it, folks.
You are Locked On Rockies postcast, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome on into your Locked On Rockies postcast. I am your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. And make sure to subscribe to this Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. That way you guys never miss an episode of all of the Locked On postcasts. I know Rocky season is coming to a close. Only a handful of games left this season. But I'll be doing another show here in about, I know I don't have a watch on, but probably like an hour or so for the Locked On Broncos postcast. Did the Locked On Buffs postcast last night. So if you want some football in your life, make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. That way you guys never miss an episode of your postcast, and a little something in the works for basketball season as well. So make sure to smash that subscribe button. But today's episode of your Locked On Rockies postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB to win $50 instantly when you play $5. More from our friends over at Prize Picks in just a little bit. Make sure to check them out, folks. And away we go. But unfortunately, not a victory show today. And it's poetic, right? I was out of town last week for a family situation, so I wasn't able to do shows during the week. Got back in late Friday night. And then obviously with the Buffs game yesterday, the Buffs game and the Rockies games ran simultaneously, but I got to prioritize the Buffs, just all things considered, less games, actual interest. I don't mean that in a bad way, but, we are in the home stretch of what has been just an awful, awful season for the Colorado Rockies. 100 losses rapidly approaching as today's loss, 6-2 to the Chicago Cubs, drops Colorado to 57-93 on the season. Chicago improves to 3 games above 500. They are 76-63. But it wasn't all bad while I was gone. The Rockies actually did some good stuff. We'll talk about that towards the end of the program. But in regards to today's game, folks, just brutal pitching across the board, really for both teams. Walks were a bit of an issue for Chicago, but unfortunately the Rockies were unable to capitalize that offensively. Their lineup was lifeless here tonight, which is disappointing, considering they put up 6 runs yesterday against the Cubs, 9 runs on Friday as well. They had a 4-run lead or 4-run win, over the Detroit Tigers in their previous game leading up to this series against Chicago. And just no dice tonight for that Rocks lineup. We'll break a lot of that down here in the second segment. But the story of the game today, in my opinion, has got to be the free pass. It's got to be the walk as, Bo Nix going deep. I got the Bronco game on in front of me. The Broncos are terrible. It's funny how both of these shows are going to kind of mirror each other. As I'm recording this, Broncos currently down 13-0 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they've done this much, like literally nothing on offense. They have no points. Bo Nix, bad interception in the red zone. We'll talk about that on the Broncos postcast. But as it pertains to the Rockies, man, I mean, it was just a brutal day at the office, a long game, 1:10 first pitch. And in the pitch clock era, it's a long game in general, but especially in the pitch clock era. I mean, it's about 4:30 here in Colorado as I'm recording this Locked On Rockies postcast for you guys. And collectively today, the Rockies pitching, while the numbers weren't awful, Cal Quantrill didn't necessarily, he was bad today. The bullpen was all right, but 6 walks allowed from Cal Quantrill alone in this game. Jeff Criswell added a walk. Jake Bird had a pair of walks. Shavili was the only Rockies pitcher to appear in this game that did not give up a walk. He was actually great today for the Rocks. Gave up 2 hits, but in an inning, a third, struck out 3 batters. His ERA down to 3.55. So, the little wins, maybe he's going to be a part of the bullpen here for the future for Colorado. Justin Lawrence, who's just a disaster. I mean, look, in 1 inning of work today for Justin Lawrence, 3 hits, 3 runs, all earned, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. That's Rockies baseball for you, folks. That's just where we're at this point in the season. And look, I know that Justin Lawrence, a couple years ago, was serviceable, decent for the Rockies, but he has been anything but that for them throughout the course of the season, just extremely inconsistent. And when he's bad, he's terrible. And you saw that again today. But let's start with Cal Quantrill. He made his return from the injured list. And, I saw Patrick Saunders of the Denver Post pointed out today, he wonders if the arm injury is still lingering a little bit for Cal Quantrill because he was just ineffective today, guys. 2 1/3 innings pitched. I mean, that's just nothing, putting a ton of pressure on your lineup and your bullpen. 2 1/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, both earned today. And again, those 6 walks, which just cannot happen. I mean, there's really no other way to slice it. You want to give up a couple of walks, 3 walks even, okay, that's not good, but you can live with that. 6 walks is when you get into uncompetitive territory. And the fact that the Rockies bullpen, ended up generating or allowing 4 walks on their own at that point, it's just it's nothing to be excited about. And unfortunately, the walks have been an issue for the Rockies, but this was a little bit of an extreme today, especially for Cal Quantrill to only go 2 1/3 innings pitched and just to allow 6 walks in that frame is just disastrous. So taking a look at it, I mean, Quantrill was able to navigate the first 2 innings without giving up any damage. Seiya Suzuki had a single there in the first. And, Isaac Paredes had a walk there in the first as well, but no runs scored for Chicago. And, similar type of situation, having to, maneuver around some walks there in the top half of the second inning. Thankfully, with 2 outs for Cal Quantrill was able to get 2 outs there in the top of the second inning before giving up back-to-back free passes to Miguel Amia and Ian Happ before he gets out of the inning. But the third inning is where it all kind of just boiled over for Cal Quantrill in this one. Seiya Suzuki, already his second time up to bat in this game, called out on strikes to lead off the top half of the third inning. And then, third time's the charm. Cody Bellinger draws a walk. Isaac Paredes draws a second walk of the game in just less than 3 full innings played at this point. So you're going to give Chicago 2 runners on with only 1 out. And clearly your confidence is shaky. Clearly you're a bit up and down if you're Cal Quantrill at this point in time. But it's just one of those situations where at some point you expect, the Chicago Cubs, who I know aren't, they're not making the playoffs, right? It's not a playoff caliber team this season in Chicago. But at some point, these big league hitters, I don't care if it's the White Sox, the Tigers, whoever it is, insert team here, eventually these guys are going to figure out a way to score some runs. And that's what Michael Busch did, delivering the first run of the ball game for the Chicago Cubs on an RBI single to center field. And then again, now you find yourself in a pressure situation with only 1 out, runners on the bags, and Nico Horner hits an RBI single as well. This one is short to the shortstop, but a throwing error from Tovar allows a run to come across to score. So that makes it 2-0 Chicago. And that was essentially it for Cal Quantrill. He ends up walking Pete Crow Armstrong, and Buddy Black has to come out and yank him because that's 6 walks for Cal Quantrill in less than 3 full innings of work. That brings in Jeff Criswell, who's able to get out of the inning and, limit the damage to 2-0, right? The Rockies at this point still within striking distance, only down a couple of runs at Coors Field, had an opportunity to try to claw their way back into this game. And they did almost, they showed a little bit of life there in the bottom half of the third inning. Jacob Stallings led off the frame with a solo shot, his 9th home run of the season. That made it 2-1 Rocks, but then it was just all downhill from there. It was competitive, up until, well, it was actually pretty competitive for a majority of the game. Chicago tacked on a bunch of those insurance runs in the 9th inning. They had an additional run in the 7th to Chicago, but the Rockies were within striking distance of this one, guys, for 75 to 80% of the game. I mean, even more, but it didn't feel like it was just how how their lineup has been performing in this game. And, only 4 hits today for the Rocks, just not a lot to feel confident about. And you factor that in with the walks that the pitching staff allowed, and, your margin for error your margin for success rather is like this thin when you're shooting yourself in the foot because your lineup can't generate offense, can't generate base runners and hits, and your pitching staff's doing yourself no favors by running up the pitch count, forcing Buddy Black's hands to use the bullpen, and allowing 10 collective walks today between Cal Quantrill's start and the rest of the bullpen. So just an ugly game today for Colorado, a winnable one. They do win the series, though, which is, I guess, at this point in the season, a victory in and of itself. I always like to say, doesn't matter if you lose 6-2, 9-1, 15-0. I don't know. I'm just throwing out random scores. A win is a win. A loss is a loss, right? And at the end of the day, the Rockies do get the job done in the sense of winning the series, but just a sour way to end this weekend series against the Chicago Cubs as they lose today 6-2. Again, the free passes were an absolute problem for Colorado in this one. But all right, let's hit a break. When we come back, let's continue along with the conversation. Let's dive into this putrid lineup today. As I mentioned, Colorado had some opportunities to keep this game close, but they were unable to do so. So we'll hit a quick break, come back, and continue along with the conversation right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. Stick with us, folks. All right, you guys, let me tell you about the fine folks over at FanDuel, and you're going to want to listen up to this, guys. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook and make sure to get in on that offer, folks. No need to go to a sports bar when you're going to get a couple of free weeks of the NFL Sunday Ticket from our friends over at FanDuel. And for those of you that like to play the numbers as I do, I've got my handy-dandy FanDuel Sportsbook with me at all times on my mobile app. I was just in New Jersey last week, and the app works great over there. I was getting some bets in for Thursday Night Football, betting some games on Sunday before I came back to Colorado, and FanDuel is my personal favorite sportsbook. If you guys have not signed up with FanDuel yet, I don't know what you are waiting for. It's America's #1 sportsbook for a reason, and let me repeat this one more time, guys. Now through September 22nd, a couple of weeks left here, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So make sure to get in on that offer. Be sure to check out our friends over at FanDuel and let them know that Locked On Rockies sent you. Okay, welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP, and make sure to smash that subscribe button, the Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. That way you guys never miss an episode of your Locked On Rockies postcast, Locked On Buffs postcast, and Locked On Broncos postcast. We'll have that Locked On Broncos postcast coming up here in probably an hour-ish or so. And we'll talk about what's going down on the football field. Unfortunately, it's looking like it's going to be an ugly show today as the Broncos currently trailing 13-0 as of this recording. So make sure to smash that subscribe button. Come on right back for the Locked On Broncos postcast and let me know your thoughts. Do you believe still? We'll break that all down on the show here after the game against the Steelers. But let's continue talking a little bit of baseball here. Rockies losing today 6-2. Spent the first segment just talking about the struggles from the pitching staff. Again, Cal Quantrill was awful. 2 1/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs. Both of them earned. The big thing, though, 6 walks allowed for Quantrill in this game and only 2 strikeouts. So, not a lot of longevity, a lot of L's that I was trying to get out there at once, which is, pun intended with how the Rockies have been playing this season and in particular today. But yes, they do take the L today. As I mentioned, guys, 100 losses just is inevitable, it appears at this point. They've got the Arizona Diamondbacks coming in the next series, the team that represented the National League in the World Series last year. So we'll take a look at that upcoming series at the end, in the next segment at the end of the show. Antonio Senzatella is supposed to be back on the bump tomorrow, which is a good thing. Nice to see him get his feet wet. It's been a while since we've seen Senza take the mound for Colorado, but today, guys, the offense just did themselves no favors. They scored 2 runs, as I mentioned, a Jacob Stallings home run there in the bottom half of the 3rd inning gives the Rockies their first run of the game. They were only down 1 run at that point. But, they also missed some opportunity. They missed a big opportunity. And this is where the walks come back to haunt you a little bit if you're Colorado, because you had yourself in a bases loaded situation in the bottom half of the ninth inning. And if you don't give up, 3 runs there in the top half of the ninth inning, and we'll break that down for you here in just 1 second, maybe you have yourself an opportunity to try to claw out a victory here. Obviously, last night was sensational, the walk-off. You win that game on Friday pretty thoroughly, 9-5. And, the self-inflicted wounds today were just unfortunately the downfall for Colorado. And looking at the sequencing here, it was Justin Lawrence, who, as I mentioned, was just a disaster today. He gets the first out of the inning. And, the Rockies are only down 3-1 at this point in the game, but then it just completely spirals out of control. Michael Busch hits a solo shot, his 20th home run of the season to right center field. And then from there, it all just piles on. Nico Hoerner hits his 32nd double of the year to center field. And then Pete Crow Armstrong blasts his 10th home run of the season on a deep fly ball to left field. And just like that, it goes from 3-1 to 6-1, essentially in the blink of an eye. So you can thank Justin Lawrence for that. But again, if you're down 3-1 going into the bottom half of the ninth inning, at least you feel like you have a fighter's chance, right? You're down, but you're not out. A couple of plays here, a couple of plays there, base hit, RBI, and maybe you find yourself at least tying this game up to force extra innings. But unfortunately, that was not the case. I just thought the ninth inning was an absolute disaster for Justin Lawrence. But in regards to the sequencing for the bottom half of the ninth inning, a good omen for the Rockies to start out the final frame of the game with Michael Toglia drawing a leadoff walk. It's not like the Chicago Cubs pitchers were electric today. Kyle Hendricks was fine. He was able to go 6 innings pitched and limit the Rockies because their offense was lifeless, but he walked 3 batters on his own. Roberts walked a batter out of the bullpen, and Keegan Thompson walked a pair of batters in his lone inning out there in the ninth inning. So, it's one of those situations where, this to me was more so about the Rockies just not being dialed in, not, putting together competitive at-bats more than it was the Cubs just, taking advantage of opportunities. Obviously, that's part of it, but this was a very winnable game this afternoon for the Rockies. So, as I mentioned, bottom of the ninth inning, Michael Toglia leads it off with a walk. And then from there, you get a little bit of a rally. Sam Hilliard with a single. Jacob Stallings draws another walk. So, there's 2 walks and just 3 at-bats to start out the bottom half of the ninth inning. And then Tyson Miller is going to replace Keegan Thompson after he allows those 2 walks. And from there, Nolan Jones is able to get a run home on an RBI, or it's a ground out, but it's still an RBI. So that makes it 6-2. And then the Rockies just go down pretty sorry after that. Brendan Rodgers works a full count. He strikes out swinging. And then Ezekiel Tovar strikes out swinging as well. And that's all she wrote for the Rockies in this game today. Just non-competitive at bats, unable to take advantage of situations. I mean, looking at the box score here today, folks, all of your top guys were hitless. Ezekiel Tovar, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Jake Cave, I don't know why he's hitting second, but he was 0 for 4 today as well. Brenton Doyle, 0 for 4 with a K. Ryan McMahon, who is, oh my gosh, like every time I do these shows, like Ryan McMahon's batting average just continues to go down and down and down and down. McMahon today, another rough day at the office, 0 for 4 with a strikeout. This is the guy, by the way, that went to Dick Monfort during the All-Star break and pleaded not to be traded, and Dick Monfort agreed because he likes him and he's not too expensive. Now, I don't know what trade opportunities the Rockies had for Ryan McMahon, but you're not getting anything out of him down the stretch here. Post All-Star break, Ryan McMahon has just been horrendous. Michael Toglia had a base hit today, but also a strikeout. Everybody that had at least more than 2 plate appearances today, 2+ plate appearances, struck out at least 1 time today. I mean, this is pitiful. Jacob Stallings, as I mentioned, an RBI, or I guess except for Stallings, he had 3 plate appearances, but he did strike out 1 time as well. So, there was just nothing going on. Nolan Jones drew 2 walks, base hit, but, gets a run home, but at a point where the game was non-competitive. Aaron Schunk and his 2 at-bats, 1 strikeout, a hit. Blackman pinch hit, Rodgers with a strikeout there to end the game. 11 total strikeouts for the Rockies lineup in this game. They did generate those 6 walks, as I mentioned, but just unable to capitalize on anything were the Rockies this afternoon. So, not much season left. So, obviously you want to have them take a long look in the mirror and hopefully try to pick things up. But at this point, it is just rough sledding for the Rockies as they just try to get to the end of this season, which, is coming sooner rather than later. Only a handful of games left, as I mentioned. But the frustrating part about it is it was just a non-competitive game from Colorado today. I know that Cal Quantrill struggled, but it was 3-1 for 80%, 90% of this game. It wasn't really until the ninth inning when Justin Lawrence was coming out of the bullpen that this game got completely out of hand for the Rockies. They had the bases loaded in the bottom half of the ninth. That's what you're looking for. And again, Brendan Rodgers and Ezekiel Tovar back-to-back swinging strikeouts. At least they went down swinging, right? At least they didn't go down looking. But you got to be able to take advantage of these opportunities, folks. And the Rockies were unable to do that this afternoon. So we'll see what the future holds for Colorado, but I'm not too optimistic. It's looking like 100 losses, like I said, it feels inevitable at this point. So, all right, let's hit our final break. When we come back, let's preview this upcoming series between the Rockies and the Diamondbacks, and I'll give you a couple of thoughts on the team as a whole before we get out of here on this Sunday afternoon. So stick with us. We'll come back and do just that right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. Back in a few. All right, you guys, real quick, let me tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks, and you're going to want to hear this, folks, because Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And guys, there are a number of promotions and reasons that you're going to want to get involved with our friends over at Prize Picks. It's an incredible option for those of you sports fans out there. Let me tell you about some of them. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action down on sports in most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks does not hit, guys. You've heard about Prize Picks. Make sure to get involved. Download that Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. One more time, guys, be sure to check out our friends over at Prize Picks. Download that app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Be sure to check them out. Let them know that Locked On Rockies sent you, and good luck to all of you out there. Okay, welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast. I am your host with the most, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. We've got the social handle right there on the bottom left hand of the corner. Make sure to check me out. Also follow us on social at Mile High Sports, and make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. That way you guys never miss an episode of all of your Locked On Denver postcasts. We've got Rockies, we've got Buffs, and we've got Broncos. We've got Broncos coming up here in about 30 minutes or so, as it's looking like they just kicked a field goal, but it's not looking too good for this. I put it out on Twitter at Media by AP. Rockies shake hands, Broncos, terrible offense. I mean, you're going on 8 years now for Denver of just putrid offense from the Broncos. And the last few years, the Rockies have just not been much better. And today, that was the case, as I mentioned. Uncompetitive was the Rockies lineup as they fall to Chicago Cubs 6-2, your final score. 11 strikeouts for the Rockies lineup today. Only 2 runs batted in. They did generate the 6 walks, but unable to capitalize on that. I mean, they had 31 plate appearances today, guys. Like I said, this was a long baseball game. I started this show right around 4:30, and when you have walk after walk after walk and pitching change after pitching change, that's how you run up the time here. And I know it's the pitch clock era, but even when it's terrible pitching, not even the pitch clock can make these games go faster because, these guys are just running up counts, full counts, walks, foul balls. Like I said, pitching changes left and right. And unfortunately for the Rockies, they're on the losing end of this game, and it was a non-competitive one, which is unfortunate. And let's talk about something positive here real quick. The last series that I was covering before I went out of town was that Brewers series, I was a little bit surprised that Colorado was able to win that series. Milwaukee is one of the better teams here in Major League Baseball this season. They took that series 2-3, and then they followed up with a series loss to the Detroit Tigers, just uncompetitive in the first 2 games, 11-0, 7-4, and then rally in the rubber match, well, technically not a rubber match, but the series finale rather, and they win that game 4-2. And then it's like, okay, you're on the road for 6 games in Milwaukee, in Detroit, Middle America, coming back to Coors Field. It still feels like summer out here. And, you put forth 2 quality efforts against the Chicago Cubs, winning on Friday 9-5, and then walking things off last night 6-5. And, it's baseball, right? You're going to have your down games. Not everything's going to go perfect, but to just be uncompetitive today, to me, is extremely frustrating in a scenario where, like, it was weird, right? Because when you're only down 3-1, regardless of the walks and the free passes, you feel like you can still win this game. But it all just ended up catching up to Colorado. I mean, they were actually able to weather the storm there for a minute, despite Cal Quantrill unable to go 3 full innings. The bullpen did a decent job outside of the walks. Justin Lawrence didn't do a good job. Everybody else was all right, serviceable to an extent, at least by Rocky standards. But then Justin Lawrence comes in there at the end of the game and just makes it so the Rockies really don't have much of an opportunity, don't have much of a chance. So, like I said, guys, it's frustrating, but we'll have to see where the Rockies go from here. Only a handful of games left this season. There's hopefully, Bill Schmidt doesn't come out like the Chicago White Sox general manager did and basically said, we're probably not going to make many moves. We just need guys to play better. Really? Imagine being a Chicago White Sox fan and having to hear that. And I'm sure the Rockies fans, the Marlins fans, the few of them out there, I'm sure they're all kind of feeling the same way where it's like, what the heck are we doing? Like, why is Jake Cave hitting second today? I know that the season is over and done with, but why is Jake Cave hitting second? Like, why? What is the logic there? If you're going to just kind of shape shift and throw some lineups out there, why hit Jake Cave second? Why not give some of these other guys more of an opportunity? I don't know. And I know I'm kind of just grasping at straws here, but it's just like when you're at this far gone in the year, like it's just non-competitive for Colorado. So, in regards to that lineup, and it just doesn't, I don't know. It just kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like, if you're going to get a little wacky, might as well let the young guys play. Like, what is Jake Cave doing absorbing playing time? I don't know. But, all right, let's take a look at this upcoming series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. First pitch tomorrow evening at 6:40 Mountain Time. Antonio Senzatella is projected to be on the mound. We'll see if he can get through his pregame warmups, ready to go. I would expect nothing less from him. This will be his first start of the year. He hasn't pitched in quite some time. Remember, tore the ACL a couple of years ago, dealing with the injury last year as well to the arm. So we'll see if Senza is able to put forth a nice start. Just get his feet wet, right? It's probably going to be, he maybe makes one more start, maybe 2 more starts. I don't know. Probably nothing crazy from Senzatella here down the stretch, but nice to see him back on the projected pitchers list. His career numbers for Senza, 39-43 with a 4.87 earned run average. He started 145 games for the Rockies and has logged nearly 700 innings over the course of his career. He's punched out 451 batters and has a whip of 1.44. So, I think while you're not going to be able to gauge too much about Antonio Senzatella in these couple of starts that he'll make here down the stretch, I think it's just a nice feel-good story, right, to see him back out there on the mound. You like to see, guys working back from injury. And when Senza was on, it's already 5 or 6 years ago now, he doesn't have overpowering stuff with the velocity, but solid command of his pitches, has done well at Coors Field, to a degree in his career. And, he kind of gives me a little bit of that Jorge De La Rosa vibe. So we'll see what Antonio Senzatella can do on the mound tomorrow for Colorado. But the Rockies are going to have their hands full. It'll be Merrill Kelly on the bump. He's 4-0 with a 4.26 ERA. That's Merrill Kelly for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Let's take a look at his last time out on September the 11th against the Texas Rangers. He got roughed up a little bit. Only 4 innings pitched, 4 hits allowed, 3 runs, all of them earned. Did surrender a home run in that game and 2 walks. But his previous start before that on the 5th, he was sharp against the San Francisco Giants. 7 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs in that one. And 8 strikeouts. So we'll see if the Rockies lineup can bounce back against Merrill Kelly tomorrow. But, you want to see them trying to play a little bit of spoiler. I know you don't want to help out the Dodgers or any of the teams in the division, but you got to play who's on your schedule. And, we'll see if the Rockies are going to be able to, back up Antonio Senzatella. Hopefully Senza has a good start. Hopefully the lineup picks him up. And hopefully we're talking about a Rockies victory on tomorrow night's installment of your Locked On Rockies postcast. But that is going to do it for me, folks. Again, a lost show. I hate that the first show back after I was gone for a few days is a lost show, especially considering that they had the walk-off last night and they won on Friday. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. Rocks losing today 6-2 to Chicago. They are now 57-93 on the year. But all right, follow me on social at Media by AP. Subscribe to that Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. I'm going to get out of here, get ready for Locked On Broncos, which will be live right here on this very channel in just a few minutes. So stick with us on the next show, and we'll talk to you guys mañana for another episode of your Locked On Rockies postcast. Have a good one, folks.